In 1448, Bartholomew Diaz traveled from Portugal and founded the Cape of Good Hope in southern Africa in an effort to find spices. After Diaz, Vasco da Gama went further than the Cape of Good Hope and went all the way to Calicut, India, and he found spices there and he brought them back to Portugal, confirming Portugal as a major world power. Columbus sailed west to reach the East Indies. What he thought he found was
India!
What he actually found was
America!
the Native Americans cultivated different crops. During the Renaissance, there was a change from religious beliefs and spirituality to human experiences. Many artists started using realism in their pieces, which portrayed their works as being more human-like. Leonardo da Vinci created the famous Mona Lisa during this time period and was a great example of realism. Before the Protestant Reformation, there was unequal distribution of wealth. The popes had lavish lifestyles and they financed art. Also, they increased fees on marriage and baptism because they needed to finance their new lifestyles.
I'm swimming in it. Indulgences were given for a quicker exit from purgatory. They could be bought and were granted for good deeds. This angered some Christians.
Father, I have committed adultery. Please forgive me. Is there any way?
All it takes is $50.
Oh. Here you go.
Your sins are forgiven, my child.
Martin Luther was a German monk and professor of theology. He was disillusioned with the church. The Wittenberg Church offered indulgences, which were an entrance into heaven for them and dead relatives. The 95 Theses were the last straw for Luther. They were posted on the church and distributed overnight. The church asked Luther to recant his views, but Luther refused.
No!
This is an outrage. This needs to be taken down immediately. Martin Luther must be excommunicated.
I feel so alone.
John Calvin was a priest and lawyer who shared many of Luther's beliefs. However, he also believed in predestination, in which God determined long ago who would gain salvation and who was born a saint or a sinner. Calvin created Calvinism and was asked to run Geneva. I don't feel good. I'm so cold. There. This will make you feel better. And here's a warm blanket for you.
Silly woman, why do you even try?
I've done some things in the past that I regret, but I'm trying to be a better person now.
You can't. You're either born good or you're born bad. You just happen to be born bad.
Because of our debt from the French and Indian War, we have no choice but to tax the colonists in America further for all their goods. You tax us on everything. You tax us on ink, stamps, paper, and tea. These are necessities that we need every day, and when you tax us, we can't afford it. No taxation without representation. You have not given us spots in English Parliament to govern ourselves and have a representation, so we feel that it's not fair for you to tax us, especially when you're all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. England controls the colonies, and any rebellion against England will lead to negative consequences.
The Boston Tea Party was a political protest by the Sons of Liberty in Boston on December 16, 1773. Dressed as American Indians, the protesters destroyed an entire shipment of tea that had been sent by the East India Company. They boarded the ships and threw the chests of tea into the Boston harbor, ruining the tea. The British government responded harshly, and the episode led into the American Revolution.
Napoleon reformed France and used a large army to control Europe. Nationalism hurt Napoleon's rule and led to war with other European countries. France and Russia went to war, and France led 50,000 horses and 600,000 soldiers in an invasion of Russia. Russians fled east and burned the ground as they left. This left no food or supplies for the French army. The cold, hard winter killed most of the French army.
'Cause 'cause it's too cold for you here.
Onward, march!
Three hours later.
What's taking so...
Because of all this industrialization, we need to move to the cities.
Since all the factories are in the cities, we have no choice but to move there to find jobs. During the Industrial Revolution, production increased dramatically. Interchangeable parts, which were identical components that could be used in place of one another, were used in factories. Because of this, the assembly line became a very big part of factory life, and most workers worked on the assembly line from day to night.
And now, the latest from China. Chinese goods are in high demand by Europeans. China is still reluctant to trade. They wanted to keep a favorable balance of exporting more than importing. Trade has now shifted towards the Western's favor. Industrial revolution has caused China to need European goods, such as opium. War has broken out over this opium.
Britain has just delivered a new shipment of opium to China.
We cannot trade opium with you any longer.
Why? We have a deal.
My people have become way too addicted to this new drug.
I need more opium.
Good morning, and reporting live to you from CNN, our latest news. The Mughal Empire has lost power in India, and British rulers have taken over. They have started to introduce Western culture in India and have many changes, including the introduction of Christianity, the ending of slavery, and getting rid of the caste system. These unpopular moves have angered many Indians, and they have been most outraged by the fact that they have been forced to fight for the British Army, and that the rifles have been coated with animal fat, and the cartilages have to be torn off with their mouth. This is most outrageous because cows are sacred for Hindus. Because of this, there has been a support rebellion in India, which has been led by many Indian soldiers.
You are being forced to join the British Army. This is how you load a gun.
How dare you insult our religion?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Maybe this will help you understand.
Reporting live from CNN. Before becoming industrialized, Japan was led by shoguns who were military dictators. The Tokugawa family became leaders of Japan, and they closed off Japan to the rest of the world. Japan developed into a strong agricultural country, but its economy was not the greatest.
I'm the rest of the world, and you need to trade with me.
No. Continuing our earlier report on Japan, over time became unhappy with the shoguns. Reform happened and the shoguns lost power. The U.S. sent troops over to force Japan to trade. Japan had no choice but to agree. The European powers soon followed, and people rebelled and overthrew the shoguns. They went back to having an emperor who was a 15-year-old Meiji. He proposed the Meiji Restoration, which strengthened Japan. He studied Western ways and combined them with Japanese traditions.